All right, good morning, everybody. We're so glad that you're here. We have 4 really wonderful presenters, all with something really different to share with you today. But I wanted to get a quick read of the room. So on your screen, if you're able, you should find under the more options a way to, or where is it, where you can raise your hand. Do we all see that raise your hand thing? If you can find the raise your hand, find it, fine. If not, then just physically raise your hand. But if I could first ask the room, how many people do we have on the call who is on the call who is not clergy? And I know that we have somebody on a phone call, 917. I don't know who that is. Okay, who is clergy as a solo priest in a parish? Who is that the right way to say it? Okay. 1, 2. Okay. Raise your hand and let me know if you have somebody that is on staff working with you during this time of COVID that's working with children, youth, and families. Okay. I just see 1 on that one. Okay. Raise your hand if you have teenagers in your community, in your parish community. Okay. Now I see more hands on that, at least 3 or 4. All right. Raise your hand if you have lay people that are working during COVID on children, youth, and family. And this could be lay people that were working with you before or who have just been lifting themselves up to this ministry during COVID. Raise your hand if you have lay people who are involved with working with children, youth, and family. Okay. Okay. Raise your hand if you have a specific challenge that you are dealing with. And I just want to know if you're coming to the table today, to the Zoom room, with like a specific challenge that you're struggling with in children, youth, or family at this time. Okay, so I'm not seeing hands up there, which maybe 1. Okay, so 1, we'll get to that, Vicki. And then okay, I want to invite you to use the chat to post any of your thoughts or comments. If there's something you're thinking but you want to come back to it, if we're in the middle of a talk, you can interrupt if you'd like to. If it's really timely, that's fine. And so we'll just roll through it. But then what we're going to be doing is offering you a variety of options. As I said on Friday, we met with lay people, and what I said was, many of us had things that worked for children, youth, and family before COVID, and those things might not be working right now. And in my own situation, I'm a supply clergy in Newburgh, and our head of our lay leader for children, youth, and family is a frontline worker, so everything has changed on a dime. And lay leaders are having to step up, and we're having to figure it out on the fly. So maybe some of you are in that situation. So again, post your comments in the chat. I'll be looking at that as we move through. So just really briefly, for those of you on the call who don't necessarily know my background in children, youth, and family, it really started as a parent 24 years ago when I had a child. And we were living in Manhattan at the time, and we ended up at St. James on the Upper East Side, and I met Vicki Hall, who's been there 20 years. And since I moved back to New York 2 years ago, I've met with Vicki, and I copy and steal everything she does. I think she's amazing, and she's just has a lot of tried and true and stories and So anyway, you are welcome to steal and rip off everything we share here today. Of course, we are not working in a bubble. We're working together. So my ministry started as a parent, and then I moved to California. Fast forward, 3 children, and I went to start a church plant in LA. I was there for 10 years. I was the co-leader of children, youth, and family for a church plant that was very emergent, non-traditional, Episcopal, and I'd never done anything like that ever. We did not use a program. We never used a program. That was very intentional, and it worked for us. Then I got ordained, and my first role was as a children, youth, and family leader at a parish in Orange County, and I was chaplain to 100 preschoolers as well. And that was an incredible opportunity. Then I moved here 2 years ago, and I was part-time children, youth, and family at a parish in Manhattan. Anyway, what I said on Friday is this: I guess I want to say I pride myself on the skill of being able to come into a parish and triple or quadruple a children, youth, and family program in 18 months. But what I am not skilled at is how to minister to children, youth, and family in a time of COVID, in a time of great uncertainty, in a time of a whole variety of ways to use social media and the internet. And that's why we're here today, is to help you figure out what is working for your parish, what else might work, and how to lean into the mystery and the surprise of it, because this is a time of transformation, and especially for us in children, youth, and family. I love the Forma conference. I've been 4 times. If you aren't on the Forma Facebook group, please join it. We'll put it in the chat as a resource. Wendy, can you put that in? And Wendy was, who you'll meet later, was a vice president of Forma years ago. It is the most amazing resource, and it is a go-to, and I really implore you to use it. You can ask any question there and get an abundance of answers on the spot from very wise people around the country. So it's great. It's a great tool for you to have. I've also been supply priest at St. Thomas Fifth Avenue for 2 years. That's how I met Allison Turner, who you'll meet this morning as well. And we together have been just trying to grow the connection of people in children, youth, and family ministry. I hold an email list that we do an occasional, not overwhelming e-blast. If you'd like to be on that, give me your email, and I'll just keep you on it. You can come on or off as you like. Our goal is to not overwhelm, but to just equip and support. We know that many of you might feel overwhelmed, especially in children, youth, and family. You're trying to keep your head above water, doing whatever else you need to do as a priest or a deacon, and then you're trying to figure out how to do children, youth, and family maybe in this new time. So unprecedented times calls for unprecedented ways of doing things. My brief story is that a few of our children, youth, and family program at the church where I supply, like I said, it crashed on a dime. For no fault to the leader there whatsoever. And I'm supply, and I'm in Manhattan, and they're in Newburgh, and I don't know these kids. What are we going to do? So a few weeks ago, we had Psalm 23, and I decided to rip off St. Peter's and other parishes who have maybe done that. And I asked somebody in the parish, an 18-year-old girl who I knew was adept at this, to put a video together of children reading Psalm 23 in the parish. This girl, asked people, and they're happy to right. She just wanted to be asked. So I asked her to do one thing, and now she's on a communications committee that they just started. I mean, it's amazing. So she put together this video. We showed it on the Sunday service, which meant that for the first time in 6-7 weeks, we had all the kids in the room. And then I preached on Psalm 23 to the kids, because I was like, why are we going to ask them to read the Psalm and not help them to understand what it means? So I preached to them, which they appreciated. We had them do artistic interpretations of the Psalm during the sermon. We then used that piece of art on our Facebook page and with our music as a still photo later. So now we're drawing them in, right? So we did that one time. So here comes last Sunday, and we're newly incorporating, we're using StreamYard on Facebook Live. So now we're incorporating, being able to bring in video and live, stream somebody else. So I'm waiting for my lay reader piece to come in on the Psalm. And what do you know? They sent me a 10-year-old boy who read the Psalm on Sunday. He put himself with a backdrop of the ocean. He wore his best little button-down shirt. He said, "Good morning." And he read that Psalm like a pro. And then they sent me a 15-year-old's artistic rendering of the Psalm on Sunday, which, by the way, if you remember, it was full of beasts and oxen and all sorts of crazy things, right? So I didn't even want, that's what it spurred. And then at coffee hour, we had 5 kids at coffee hour, including a young adult who'd never shown her face before. And because I will call people on things, I asked her to do our ending prayer. And she was mortified, and she did it with a smile. So now my point is, the minute, and it is never too late, we're not beating ourselves up about we didn't do X, Y, and Z and we dropped the ball, and don't worry. Today is a new day, and we're starting for today. What else can we do? The minute we show them that they matter, the children, youth, and family, teens, even young adults, if they're slipping through the cracks, they will come. And that's what I'm seeing. And so I just shared that story to say, we're winging it. And it is spawning lay leadership and youth participation and children's participation. And you know, when kids read, they bring it 100%. I'm so impressed and proud of the kids and the way they bring their ministry. So let's never forget that they can do things often better than some of us. So that said, I'd like to introduce Allison Turner. Allison's ordained ministry began in 1997. And prior to moving to the USA, she was priest vicar in Exeter Cathedral in the UK with a focus on faith formation for children and youth. And Allison was also, get this, assistant head and head of school in the UK in a range of Roman Catholic and Church of England, city, rural, and public and co-ed independent schools. She is currently associate priest at St. Thomas Fifth Avenue, and she recently completed a master's in sacred theology from General with a focus on children's ministry in the Episcopal Church, where she learned about Diddy Disciples, which is a formation program for little ones, which she'll share about. And she and her husband have 2 grown children, 3 grandchildren, all in the UK, but their dog Birdie is at home with them. Maybe we'll see Birdie. And she's collaborative and lovely and on fire, as we all are, for children, youth, and family ministries. So, Alice.
Thank you, Gina, and good morning, everyone. One of the things that I think is really quite incredible about these gatherings, and I'm sure we've all been on many now, is how it's bringing people together from not just our clericus or our little region, but across the diocese. So thank you, Victor, and the team for putting these corners and other opportunities together. I think one of the beauties of this morning is the opportunity to share a few things with each other. And I'd say start to share because, you know, we've only got an hour. At St Thomas, over the last, since September when I became full-time in this role, we've been exploring different ways of integrating liturgy into our Sunday gathering with the children. And I've met some of you on different training, whether it's Godly Play or Catechesis of the Good Shepherd, lots of things. We've been given the go-ahead to experiment. So one of the things that we were particularly keen to look at was younger children, how we can have a nursery which has up to now been very much childcare, and of course that's important, always is important, but to have something that we can offer to integrate them more intentionally in our liturgy and as we learn about worship. This is a hefty book, don't be put off. The website for Diddy Disciples is simply that, Diddy Disciples. And one of the beauties of Diddy Disciples for us is that it does some of what Gina was talking about, giving children the lead in worship, even the very youngest ones. And some of the things that we also were attracted to with this Diddy Disciples is you don't have to go on a hefty training, though we did have a training. You can just take snippets, little building blocks out of the resources, and there are many resources online, which worked out really well because the day we had Sharon, the author of the Disciples, with us, the next weekend it was COVID and we were closed, same as us all. So one of the things that we were able to do was make a decision about what we would carry on with in terms of our children's ministry with a shut church building, I should say. And we decided to do two things. And I'm going to just show a few pictures and then we'll get back to talking again. You don't want to see that. Let's pull that up. There we are. That's some of the positive things about Diddy Disciples I mentioned. It's not a lock, stock and barrel, do the whole thing, start at the beginning and work through. It's a dipping kind of resource, and that's been really helpful for us in these recent weeks. I mentioned then we had the whole thing of COVID and we decided to do two things. One, we would carry on with gathering once a week. We'd do something that was familiar to the children. We'd have a Sunday Zoom, which is now very important because when I look at this picture here, which was Easter, because this one's got his hat on, children are now from St Thomas are very spread out. Some are in Canada, in Connecticut, in Florida, where else? I'm looking on the picture here. Oh, some are in Manhattan, some are in upstate, in quite rural areas. People are really spread out now, and actually that coming together has been very important with something familiar, a pattern that's familiar, and nothing too complicated. We also keep it short. We didn't want to be over zealous at the beginning. Three principles we've kept to is that we want to be creative, we want to be faithful, and we want to be connected. And that's kind of what's keeping our weekly gathering together, which has now grown a little because we have a regular meeting of youth. They wanted to meet each week, which was really heartening. And that's a post-confirmation group. We also decided to do a second weekly newsletter. I thought that would just be like, oh, we'll do it for a couple of weeks and then that will be it. But actually it was really very, it's been well received. People can contribute a poem, a thought. People are sharing photos at the moment. And we have something that's practical that people can do, not that they need entertaining or having their lives filled with activities from church. we need to make sure whatever we do, it's about our faith, and it's actually because they can get all the entertainment, all the creativity off the website. We all can do that off of the internet. And being connected isn't just what we do online, it's following up, being in touch with people, it's sending them prayers, and it's bringing people together across the parish as well. We felt that the purpose of what we do is actually at the heart, and actually carry on being faithful is so important to us. Here's some pictures of some things we've done. We had some ideas, again, straight out of Diddy Disciples, a very small, almost a service that you could use, very much based on storytelling for little ones around the Stations of the Cross. It was really simple, and we gave each child, we sent to each child a box of little things that they could tell the story at home as well. Again, that's really important for those who haven't got either a computer or good connection. We blessed crosses, we blessed our palms, we did things that were familiar, and our older children still did their Stations of the Cross, but we did it in a slightly different way. This is us doing one of our sorry songs. I'm sorry, I think I'll start again. And we find if we use the movement of some of the songs from Diddy Disciples, or even others, it actually is a way of connecting people, because we're moving, we're not just sat there like that, like we are this morning. These are two highlights. A family who were very creative, wanted to act out the Emmaus story. So the teaching point in each gathering, which is for about half an hour each week, though the time's creeping up, we rotate who does the teaching, and that teaching will be a reflection. It might be a wondering, and it's just a 10-minute thought for the day almost. And this family acted out for us the road to Emmaus. They recorded that in advance. That's way beyond my technology to do such things, but that's their gift to us. We've had visitors. Again, to ask someone to come and tell a story for 10 minutes isn't asking them to run a Sunday school program. That's been really helpful. We've had a senior who's demonstrated how to make palm crosses. We're asking different people to come for 10 minutes, just once, and actually they're prepared to do that because it's not an overwhelming task. Asking others to participate is actually building relationships across the parish as well. And here are a few other things I just wanted to mention. We asked our children, Gina mentioned drawing, to do something for someone who may be lonely or at home, and they could either post it to myself, or they could take a photo, email it, and then we send it out again. Again, to people who don't have computers, don't have access to listening to services, we feel that that's really important, that we try and keep connected with them. In recent weeks, we've realised that we can be open to other ideas. We're listening in to what others are offering. Beautiful prayers, beautiful blogs, and thank you, Wendy, for yours. We're starting to look ahead to what we can share with other people's ideas. And one thing recently, as we always have something creative each week, is to gather 50 gifts in the 50 days leading up to Pentecost, which is something for it's an outreach for St Mary's kids in a hospital where one of our nursery staff works. And this little one at the end, that's just, that's my grandchildren who recognise the voice of Grandad on the webcast of one of the St Thomas services. So that's just a special one I'm sharing with you. Now I can't get rid of this. Ah.
We're not seeing the slides anymore.
Oh, that's okay then. That's good.
Thank you so much, Allison. Oh, I didn't realize that those were your grandkids in that picture. What a great picture. All right, I think you just gave us the quote of the whole session, which is to ask someone to come visit for 10 minutes isn't asking them to run a Sunday school program. I think that is great, and it's building relationship. I just want to open the floor. Does anybody have any questions for Allison right now about what she's done or how she's doing it, or about Diddy Disciples? And she'll share her contact info so you can be in contact with her directly also. Yeah.
Yeah, just say as well, we've had several people who come for a Zoom. They come for 1 week, then we don't see them for a while, then they come back. And we've had visitors as well. So if anyone wants to just come along, it's an open house, and it's quite clumsy sometimes, particularly when we start singing. We've got the mute button, and from the very beginning, it was almost how much time had to be spent planning, even for something simple, was really it's still important. But actually, it's like a well-oiled machine. Things get smoother. But drawing on other people is great, and anyone can come join us or have one of our newsletters.
I think that last week, Allison also made a point that I just want to lift up today, that is that you've been really, really attentive to sticking with something for a while and then evaluating it. So you're not changing things left and right, but really giving some time. So now that we know that we're sheltered in for longer, we can look at that. Okay, what's the next stage? What are we going to do this summer and such? So does anybody have any questions right now that they want to jump in with in the chat or out loud?
Oh. Yeah, I just posted a question. I'm wondering what day into Diddy Disciples Ministry.
I didn't hear the question, sorry.
Oh, sorry. My internet connection is unstable, it says. Day and time are you doing your...
Sunday at 10:15. And when I say we're doing Diddy Disciples, we're just dabbling, to be honest. We're using some of the songs with the movement. That's been the most important thing. And that recognizing what we do, it matters, and it's worship. And then some children stay on and participate in the wider service with their families.
So that's an 11 a.m. service?
Yeah.
Okay.
Anybody else? And another thought I had was, I love the I'm Sorry song, and so that's basically a confession for children. And how wonderful would it be to try that out, where in our Sunday services, if we do the confession with adults, and then we know the children are in the home, we could even just say, invite them over, we're going to do this together really quick and teach. I mean, we have the flexibility right now to do things differently, and that would draw them in. That's another way that just try it. This time to try new things. If there are any other questions that come up, please put them on the chat, and we'll carry on. I'd like to go next to Wendy. So Wendy Claire Berry is here with us today, and if you don't know her, you're going to now, and it's a pleasure. She is the author of a book called Faith at Home that she wrote before this. So I mean, that's awesome in and of itself. It's called Faith at Home, a handbook for cautiously Christian parents. It was published in 2016 as an imprint of Church Publishing. Wendy brings 30 years of experience directing children, youth, and family ministries in 7 parishes, small and large, West and East Coast. And she was most recently on staff at Trinity Church Wall Street, and is now the editor for formation and formation specialist at Church Publishing. So you're going to hear about her blog, you're going to hear about resources, and have at it, Wendy. So glad you're here.
I'm going to try to share my screen. Let me know when you see the pictures, will you please? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. And now, let's see. Where is my... Here we go. And are you seeing the screen, the slides? No, not yet. Okay.
Victor, did you see it? Oh.
Well, that's annoying. Let's try this. How's that?
Yes.
Yay. Okay. All right. So as you know, I've been talking about this particular subject much longer than COVID. And I want to tell you this: God is a mystery, but how children and youth grow into an adult faith is not. We now have 40 years of longitudinal research from across the country and across denominations. In 2014, I heard sociologist Christian Smith deliver the Ensign Lecture at Yale Divinity School. And what he had to say in about 45 minutes struck me hard and convinced me I needed to write a book. Smith was drawing conclusions from the fourth wave of data in the National Study of Youth and Religion, a longitudinal study of more than 3,000 youth, which began in 2001. He said unequivocally that the single greatest influence on the spiritual and religious lives of American teenagers is their parents, not clergy or youth ministers. That home is where faith is passed on, not church, camp, or mission trips, and that the means of transmission is ordinary life practices, not preaching, not programs, not rites of passage. Nothing else, Smith said, comes close, remotely close, to matching the influence of parents on the religious faith and practices of youth. The statistics are startling. 82% of children whose parents were active in their congregations, who practiced their faith, and who talked about matters of faith at home, were religiously active as young adults. Only 1% of older teens whose parents placed little emphasis on religion were religiously active as young adults. And of course, all of us who work with in the church realize the obvious problem. Influential cultural scripts disempower parents by telling them to turn their children over to the experts, us. He went on to describe parents some of us know who drop their children off at Sunday school or youth group or confirmation class and go to Starbucks. But some of them are parents who actually bring their children to church and who just aren't comfortable talking about it at home. Think that, you know, in that service of worship and that 45 minutes of Sunday school that follow, that kids are getting everything they need. And that's just not the case. I've started to think about our work differently. I think that our job is to empower parents and to encourage them to embrace and accept their role as their children's primary pastors. And part of that is giving them the vocabulary that they need to articulate their faith. One of the reasons I called this book Handbook for Cautiously Christian Parents is that I particularly wanted to reach parents who are new to the church. Particularly at St. Paul's Chapel in Lower Manhattan, where I was on staff, and at All Saints Pasadena in California, where I was on staff, I found a number of parents who were new to the church or who had had a terrible experience at the church of their childhood and were coming back after a long absence. And they were very cautious about the way Christianity is defined in popular culture and in the media. And there were people who just don't picture God as an old man with a long white beard, or don't even think about God as a person. And there were just people who love Jesus and want to follow him, but that word, that idea of Christianity has really, I think, been off-putting to people who are turning on the television or picking up their newspapers and hearing what people who call themselves Christian are doing. So cautiously Christian to me means not expecting answers to prayers and praying anyway. And because what's really important in the act of praying is feeling connected to God. It means realizing that prayer doesn't have to have words at all. And in fact, our prayer book very clearly says that praying is with or without words and can be, of course, actions. And I always felt that clergy were holding out on us a little by not emphasizing that more. It means reading the Bible critically and reverently, and sometimes having to throw reverence out the window in order to keep reading. It means that while I follow the Christian path, I believe with my whole heart there are other valid paths to God. It means that because I have faith, I have no need of certitude. That's what being cautiously Christian means to me. And I think that you will discover that there are a lot of cautious Christians in your congregation, if you didn't know that already, and people who might want to come closer to the Episcopal Church if they knew that this was a place where their cautious Christianity could be welcomed and encouraged. Another cautiously Christian issue is, of course, that people think they have to have all the answers to teach Sunday school or to talk to their kids. And really, I want to encourage people that it doesn't matter. You can say to your child, I'm not sure what I think about this. I'm not sure what this means. I wrestle with this too. That the important part is to talk about these things in the context of our faith and to wrestle with it, because that's actually a lifelong process. And so I really wanted to be encouraging. Now let's see if I can advance this slide. There we go. So I wrote this book, which came out in 2016, and in the tiny world of the Episcopal Church has been a bestseller. People have been giving it as baptismal gifts. We teach a baptism class. Until very recently, I was teaching a baptism class with Kristen Miles at Trinity Wall Street, and every family went home with one of these and the Book of Common Prayer. It is, I write a blog as well, and some of the book content is on the blog, and some of it's new posts. I've been writing a post most weeks for the Faith at Home email blast that goes out from Forma for this particular time in the pandemic. And really, I'm writing more for parents than I am for anyone else. And I'm writing for people like me. As you can see, this is our kitchen table. This is where I'm speaking to you now. This was at dinner church. I met my husband at St. Lydia's, a dinner church in Brooklyn, and we've been having virtual dinner church on Sunday or Monday evenings, which is lovely. And as you can see, we've got this beautiful little setup. I rolled some beeswax candles, which was very, very therapeutic, but you can also see the dishes piled up in the sink behind the candles because that's what it's like at our house. And it's a both and. It is not a perfect situation here. And I think that's really helpful to be really encouraging in this particular time to everyone to say, we live in 650 square feet, not quite 700 square feet here with 3 full-sized human beings, and we're not going to have a home altar, but we can have, some beautiful things that draw us closer to God. So I'm going to advance the slide once more. So one of my blog posts is about sacred space, and that's our blessing bowl. And that's been something that is lovely to know, that we can have sacred space that's just the size of a bowl that fits in your own 2 cupped hands. And you can see a rainbow ribbon and an olive wood cross. The rainbow ribbon has been for promises made and kept. There's a peace stone that's really good to hold when you need peace, when you need to find some peace. An acorn for growth, a Lego for creativity, a glass marble that's got the world painted on it to draw our thoughts to those in need around the world and for people we're separated from. A shell to remind us of our baptism. There's a heart-shaped stone, but they're instead of a beautiful sacred altar that we don't have room for in Brooklyn. And sacred time too, of course, is something that we can carve out in small bits. I find that my prayer practice is something that is very haphazard a lot of the time. And I've learned finally after all these years that that's really okay. That it doesn't have to be that I'm sitting down with my prayer book 15 minutes before everyone else gets up. I can pray standing at the kitchen sink quite well. I'm going to advance this slide one more time. Let's see. Oh, so here's some resources. There's my website and my book. There is a brand new book that you should have. It's called Common Prayer for Children and Families by Jennifer Gamber and Timothy Siemens, both of whom are Episcopal priests and Episcopal school chaplains. It's a really wonderful new resource that is available. And they also have a YouTube channel which has daily prayer for morning and evening for the whole week. For preschool children, there's also a wonderful new prayer book called Prayers for Faithful Families by my friend Tracy Smith, who's a Presbyterian pastor. And if you don't know it, there is a picture book called The Very Best Day by Roger Hutchison, which is a new book from Church Publishing. This book has the particular advantage of coming with a curriculum that can be used over 7 weeks. If you go on the Church Publishing website to the page for this book, that is a downloadable lesson plan that's, I think, just a couple of pages long, but you can do that online, or you can send it home to families with a copy of the book. And it doesn't need an online component at all, but it gives some really lovely ideas of how to live the way of love, which of course is a simplified rule of life for children and families. So I think that's really valuable. Planning for Rites and Rituals is a series that Church Publishing offers. The Year B is about to come out this summer, but it has wonderful ideas for connecting what happens in the Sunday scriptures for people with children and youth and people of all ages. It's not just a resource for clergy, it's a resource for your educators as well, so that they know how to make connections. If you're fortunate enough to have staff, and I certainly hope you have some volunteers. There's some, and you're able to make connections that will provide some concrete, both concrete and imaginative experiences drawn from the Sunday lectionary. Sharon Ely Pearson, who's my predecessor at Church Publishing, is just a font of wisdom, and she's got a series called Faithful Celebrations, and it spans the entire year, and a lot of those are ideas for that can be used at home or virtually. If she didn't plan on it virtually, of course, but once you pick up one of those volumes, you will see that there are ideas that you can use to gather an intergenerational group online, or provide some ideas for your families to do at home. So another website I wanted to draw your attention to is Building Faith, which is from Virginia Theological Seminary. Buildfaith.org is the website. Lots of ideas for both home and church, particularly in this time. And I think one of the things that I just want to leave you with is that we're not going to go back, I don't think, to the way things were. We are going to be forever changed by this, both personally and as the church. And I don't think that that's a bad thing. We've been moving away for a long time from Sunday school is a viable practice in lots and lots of places. Some people are doing it and it's working well for them, and God bless you all. That's great. I don't want to take that away from you. But because of this research, we know that in addition to parents who are active in their faith and who talk about matters of faith at home, the next most important influences on the spiritual and religious lives of children and teenagers is connection to other adults in the faith community and participation, active participation in worship. And so I think that we're being given a gift here. We're being given the opportunity to reimagine what we offer for parents, for children, for teenagers, and how we offer it and how we connect them with our larger faith community. I'm going to add another website in the chat, and it is called Doing Good Together. This is a website that offers all kinds of fabulous opportunities for people who want to make a difference. And they even have a New York newsletter, so you can get connected to local things. And of course, they have pandemic-specific opportunities to bring people together. Oh, I'm sorry, it's not .com, it's .org. Doinggoodtogether.org. So there are opportunities in this fabulous website for all kinds of organizations who could really use our help right now, and things like thank you cards for sanitation workers, and notes to people who are in nursing homes, and the kinds of things that we all want to do, but they've already found the people who can use your help right now. So that's what I've got. I wonder if there are any questions.
Yeah, does anybody have anything for Wendy specifically? We're getting some really great quotes out of this today. I like that, like read the Bible reverently, but throw that out sometimes when you need to.
Keep reading.
Yeah.
Keep wrestling.
Keep reading, keep wrestling. I think you just bring up a really great point about parents feeling insecure about having those faith conversations. And I came across that in my last position so much so that I started a parents group called Parents Around the Table, and we met weekly during Sunday school. And it just dawned on me, duh, I mean, it's never too late. It just dawned on me, I can do that online really easily right now. Parents around the table talking about those. I mean, I've had parents come up to me and say, I'm really embarrassed to say this, but what is Lent? I mean, if they don't feel like they can ask us those questions, then we're not helping them to be the children, youth, and family ministers that they need to be. Children, youth, and family minister leadership has just cracked wide open, right? It's all the parents at home. So, and
it always was, and that's the gift of it.
Exactly.
So
exactly, it always was, but they wanted to make us think it was just us.
And sometimes we wanted to think that too.
Anybody, I know some of you have joined us. We're glad that you're here. Anybody else have any questions for Wendy? Feel free to put anything you'd like in chat. You can contact her separately.
Oh yeah, I'll give you my email address.
And we're all a resource here for each other. And if ideas come up and you want to call any one of us and go like, I just need to kick the can around, let's do it. I mean, that's how the Spirit works, and that's how we get into the next thing that we're going to get into. I also like that haphazard prayer is okay. So thank you for all that and for all the resources. Let me see something here. Melina, you're back. Okay. I'm going to introduce Melina Smith. Melina currently works at St. Calvary St. George's. Thank you, Calvary St. George's. And
I'm their number one volunteer.
Number one volunteer, right? Melina has also a wealth of background, both as a parent and in ministry with children. She has a BA from the University of Arizona in sociology and a master's of education in counseling and human relations. She began work as a social worker on the reservation of the Cocoba tribe.
Cocopa
Tribe. Then continued working with families as a behavioral therapist in Pittsburgh and then came to New York City and has worked for the Children's Aid Society. And I already told her she needs to update her website at the church because it says that she hopes, and I love that you put a hope onto the website. You hoped to create a original Sunday school content. So she's going to update that because she now has created a Sunday school content, and it's fantastic. And again, pick and choose piecemeal. I'm so glad to introduce Melina to you all. So take it away.
Hi guys, thanks for coming and super happy to be invited. I'm part of Storymakers. We created Storymakers, and we're a resource, and we're partners with the Diocese of New York. And especially in this time during COVID, we wanted to be able to resource churches that need resources. So what we've done is we've created digital options for you all. And I'm going to post here in the chat. You can just go to our contact and message me if you want to know what free stuff you can get from us. So what we did was we have made our files digitally available, and then along the lines with that, we're posting weekly Sunday school videos. So if you don't have volunteers or you're losing bandwidth in the midst of COVID, you could send these links to your families and say, hey, you can download this digital file and you can press play and you have a Sunday school experience in 10 minutes. So, and if you do have volunteers and you do have people who are able to flush these concepts out, and they can share them in a Zoom, they could share the files in a Zoom and then discuss them, watch the show in a Zoom, and then discuss it as a Sunday school class. That's a great thing to do too. Lots of people are doing that as well. So I'll just share my screen with you really quickly. I'll give you an example of this is an example of the digital files that we are offering. So this is chapter 12 of our Flood series. So you could share this in a Zoom classroom, or families could just do it together at home, and they could do it, they could just print it out if they wanted to. Or what we're doing here at Calvary St. George's is we've sent out the magazines to every kid in our parish, and we've said, this is your Sunday school kit for the next 12 weeks. So some churches are doing this now. And the way that we tell story is through the form of a play, so the families can act out the story together. So someone could be Noah, someone could be God, and that's how we interact with the story. And it's really fun and I think super creative. We've got some fun social emotional components to every chapter. This is a way to create connectors for families to sort of understand each other. What are you afraid of? What am I afraid of? And just sort of have those easy connections in sort of a backdoor way that are not sort of direct with a lot of Sunday school material can be. Like, what do you guys think of that, scripture reading? It's a little bit more playful, much more through the back door, and I think creative. So they do these call and responses. Families can do these with their kids. And then at the very end of every chapter, there's an opportunity to make the story their very own. And so we offer shadow puppets, and these are free downloadables that you guys can get from us. And so this is just an example of the instructions of how to do that. I'm going to share with you guys our website. So here's an example of if you went to our website and under our video page, then you can see the Flood series. and you can click on any of these videos. And let's say this is chapter 1. So you would click in, you could share this with your families, and a volunteer could easily host this as in a Zoom classroom. You could watch it together, then they can discuss it right afterwards. And they're 7 to 10 minutes, and it goes through every single chapter. So they match with the digital file. So they've got the digital file, they can watch the film, and then they can interact with it. And it gives really clear instructions on how to engage. And one of our Sunday school leaders is teaching every class, so it's super consistent. So if you don't have consistent volunteers, we've got someone online who can be your consistent teacher for the next 12 weeks. Some churches are going to be using this program as their vacation Bible school experience, because we'll have all the videos up in the next couple weeks for 12 weeks. And some people are going to be doubling up these videos in a day, and then they'll use that as a camp experience. So it's just each chapter there's a video for every chapter. It's totally free. Go to our website and you can download them and you can share them. If you want to see what we did for Holy Week, we've got the Holy Week videos up. We've got the Lent videos up, and you can, use those as well. What else was I going to show you guys? The other thing we're doing, and I've been talking to other folks about too, is Instagram in this moment of COVID is super important, I think, for churches to stay connected. It's just an easy way because everybody's online right now. And so what we've done at Storymakers is we integrate scripture and we integrate visuals to capture our audience. And so, we're watching other churches and seeing what they're doing to help continue to capture audience. And, our kids are on TikTok, they're on Instagram. Kids are not really on Facebook. Teens are not so much on Facebook. Their parents are, but younger kids are on Instagram and they're on TikTok. And so those, I would strongly suggest, are platforms that your church connect with, sort of investigate. Probably you've got teens in your congregation that could run your Instagram for you. But having engaging visuals is a way to capture kids' imaginations and to keep them captivated. And then we sprinkle in scripture in between, just to keep them in that direction. Let's see. Yeah, so those are the things that we are offering, and most of them are for free. And so the files are free and the videos are free. We also have on our website a thing called Sparks, and there are free craft videos and lots of free resources, so you guys can just kind of dip in there. And I'm also meeting with people in Zoom conference and Zoom meetings to talk through different ways of using Storymakers and helping people stay connected, especially with things like Instagram, platforms like Zoom and that sort of thing.
That's awesome. Melina, can you also talk about, or is this folded into the 12-week thing that you're going to be uploading soon, but the summer
Creative Arts Camp.
Summer camp. Yeah.
That's
really
important. I'll share that with you guys here. So
many of you may know that a lot of summer camps have now recently been declared to be closed this summer. I know my daughter alone was devastated by that news. That was the one thing she was looking forward to. So this is free and accessible to all of us. Please take advantage of this resource.
Yeah, so if you're interested in a free camp, I'll just copy and paste this here. Calvary St. George's, we host a creative arts camp every summer. This is our 11th or 12th, I can't remember, but we are going to be hosting a creative arts camp. We're going to be doing it digitally. We're doing it the best of. It's going to be the last week of June from 3:30 to 5 o'clock. And this is what we're suggesting to churches. You could totally dip in for free into our camp. And then we're telling churches, I think a good idea would be to host your own live Instagram or Facebook Live or Zoom experience. So your kids at your church jump into our camp, but then post, they have a conversation with your church and you guys engage the content together. So that way you're, staying connected with your kids in your parish, so they're using our content, but then you guys are all staying connected. And you guys are working through the content on your own. One thing that we're doing is we're sending out a creative arts camp kit the first week of June. So we're sending out like a box to everybody and saying, hey guys, here's some fun crafty things, get ready. We can't wait to have you for camp. These are just, we'll send you guys that list, that resource list of things we're sending in the mail. And we're sending a note to all of our campers. But it's going to be really fun and a totally free resource and an easy way to do VBS. And we're running it the last week of June, but if you run your camps in July or August, you can totally run them whenever you want because they'll be on our website after June. If 3:30 doesn't work for you guys, you can run it in the morning. It's adaptable to whatever time that you guys need to run your individual camps.
Right, and that age group is 3 to 14.
3 to 14. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So anyway, does anybody have any questions for Melina at this time before we move on? I just don't want to. I want to keep good to our time. Does anybody have any questions for Melina on Storymakers or anything? Yeah, Kyle.
Yes. Good morning. Thank you, Melina. I was just curious. I pulled up how to do the videos, but I'm not seeing how to pull up the digital files on the Storymakers site. So
you, let's see, you just message me directly. We've been, Victor has sent out messaging just to the diocese, and I'm afraid to post it on the website, like free stuff, fully. So if you want the files and you belong to the Diocese of New York, or if you also, we're doing matching with churches too. So let's say your church, if you're interested and you're like, you know what, I want to buy 10 magazines, I'll match you and give you 20. So we have a matching going on with the diocese, and we are also offering our free digital files. So if you want anything from us, you can just message us directly and say, hey, I'm from the diocese, I would like X, Y, and Z. Then I'll send those things off to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Melina.
And I send everything through WeTransfer. So if you guys get anything from us digitally, it's always through WeTransfer.
Okay, great. Anybody else? All right. I am glad to introduce somebody speaking to us who also comes with a wealth of experience in children, youth, and family, but who is focusing today on talking with us about youth, teens. However, Andrea Dedman is also has a lot of experience in Godly Play. So Andrea, I'm sure I'm just going to lift that up and say if people are using Godly Play and have any questions, they might be able to ask you that as well. Andrea Dedman is Director of Children and Youth Ministries at St. Michael's Church on the Upper West Side. She's been there since 2011, and she began her lay ministry as a peer minister at the Kenyon College Canterbury Club. She came to New York to join the first group of interns, which was then called New York Intern Program at St. Mary's Church, Manhattanville. It's now part of the Episcopal Service Corps. And Andrea earned an MDiv from Union and a diploma in Anglican Studies from General. She did 3 years of field ed at Church of the Holy Apostles in Chelsea, and that's where she did a lot of her Godly Play work. And it has been serving as the Diocese of New York's registrar to the Episcopal Youth Event 2020, which is postponed, but she is working diligently to try to connect our teens diocesan-wide in service and more. So, Andrea.
Hi, everybody. I don't have a slideshow. I wish I did. But so the reason why I'm here today is because about a year ago, Bishop Shin came to St. Michael's, and I asked him about the Episcopal Youth Event, which I knew was coming up in 2020. And our diocese doesn't have anyone on staff who does children and youth stuff. 6 years ago, I had, I saw one of these national church emails about going to EYE, and I was sort of naive, and I would, send it off to their youth to see if anybody wanted to come. And I had an eager young woman who wanted to come. And then I read the fine print about how your registrar needed to sign them up. And so I was like, I didn't know who the registrar was. So I contacted the diocese, and I found out there was no one who was a registrar. And so no one from the Diocese of New York could go. And it was too late to really complain, right? Or to get anything together, because I guess it was like January and the applications were due soon. So, when I saw this new one coming up, that's what I asked Bishop Shin, and he said, yeah, we don't have a registrar, but you can be the registrar. And I said, okay. So I saw some of you guys at convention and did a sign-up sheet, and we did lots of emails, and we got 19 youth who were eager to come to the Episcopal Youth Event this summer. And Kyle, who's on here, and I, and Ellis from, I'm just blank, Christchurch, Bronxville, we were going to be the chaperones. And, it was canceled. So we had a little meeting on Zoom and invited the youth who were going to participate, to come and, we just meet each other and sort of check in and see if they wanted to sort of connect with other youth from the diocese. And they said, okay, maybe a service project. So we had a meeting with the youth about a service project the first time, and about half the people who came were adults and half of them were youth. And we did some breakout groups, and, the kids, we all voted on, sort of what project they wanted to do. There were 10 things, and they got it down to, it was between reaching out to like healthcare workers and people living in nursing homes or group homes. And they voted on doing the nursing homes and group homes. And that's where we ended our first meeting. And we also got the feedback from the youth that the adults just talk too much. And so, so another youth leader reached out to some of the youth and asked them to lead this coming meeting, or not, well, the meeting that took place this past Sunday. And what I learned from that was that youth really need to be empowered to lead. Imagine that. They need to have like, a plan and a format, and leading Zoom meetings is really, really hard, especially with a whole group of strangers and, like from 30 to 40 people, and youth that you don't know, and then adults that you don't know. And so we had a rather chaotic meeting, I thought, on Sunday. Chris was there, and Kyle was there, so they can pop in as well. So we didn't really get very far in terms of, how the youth are going to reach out to the nursing homes and group homes. I think, we said we would have another meeting in 2 weeks. And I know that my youth at St. Michael's, for whom I've canceled youth group for both of these things to get them there, because more than an hour a week is too much for them to commit to. Another meeting is they're not gonna come, honestly. So I think we need to sort of empower them, because this, unfortunately, we are at home, and this is really hard for everybody. We're, in some ways, like, sitting in your desk at home and writing a card to someone in a nursing home it's not what people like imagined would be a fun service project. I think there's a little bit of disappointment on the part of the youth about that. So that's sort of where I am with all of this. And I would love also, I think a neat thing that's happened is that we have had both lay and ordained people who are in ministry with youth gather together on Zoom, and we're really talking about wanting to do more like diocesan collaboration and events, bringing youth together, particularly for those youth that are in parishes that don't have a group. I think that's particularly important. I
have a question.
We'll continue that. And yeah, jump in.
Would your St. Michael's youth come in 2 weeks to another meeting if it was just them and if it wasn't the wider diocese?
Yes, I co-opted our youth group time and Zoom account for these meetings, and we've had every week we've been meeting, and I feel like they've been really fruitful times together. We're really focusing in on spirituality, and there are usually about 6 kids who come for the middle school group and about 6 for high school group. So they all share. Yeah, go ahead.
The reason I bring that up is because I know my daughter, who's 15, came to the first session that you had, and she didn't know anybody because she's sort of like not at a parish right now, and it's awkward. And I also know that where I supply, those kids, maybe one might have come, I'm not sure, but what it did do was it inspired. It inspires a particular parish in what they can do with their youth. And it might just be that this is an awkward way to be able to get them, to connect like you've experienced. And that's okay, but I know that where I supply, those very few teens, they are much more comfortable, they're more comfortable because they know each other and to get together. And so I also, you did touch, Andrea, just a second ago, you said you have a lot of focus within your teen group on spirituality and prayer, which is awesome. That is in and of itself so incredible. I see Wendy shaking her head. And Alice, and we all are shaking our heads. Yes, that is a success right there. And you had mentioned on Friday a book called Contemporary Youth Ministry.
Contemplative.
Contemplative. Oh, contemplative. Youth
I'm really
ministry.
into this guy, Mark Iaconelli. He has a couple of books.
So I wanted to please, I don't want to take away your time. If you have something more to add in, Andrea, please do. But I also want to open it up to the room and say, does anybody else have any questions for Andrea about teens or youth, or something that they're doing that seems to be working well, even in a small group? Allison said that they have a few teens that are wanting to self-organize and be together, that are, confirmands or something like that. So I want to see if anybody has any questions for Andrea or something to chime in there.
No, I think there's a connection as well with what Melina was presenting earlier for story makers. That something that she has been exploring and is at play in some churches right now is that some of the youth have been the ones invited to be the ones leading those sessions. So they really engage in the conversation. Some of them are grateful to learn about these materials and to communicate them to children. So they have been something that could be seen as a only children's program had now been moved to be even a youth program for some of them. It's something that is creating a strength of youth leaders who are leading formation, and they are now at the same time being guided by somebody in the church that is helping them digest the materials. So it's something that have been transitioning. We have seen that in some churches that is moving along really well, and especially during this time where technology have been involved. Some of the youth have been jumping in and saying, I could do this, I could volunteer to do that. So it's a great way to engage them and to give some formation, but it's crucial to accompany them, to be with them during the process and to guide them in that process as well, because they are as well learning and being engaged just in those conversations and connecting to what Wendy was saying is such a conversation that continues home as well. So some of the feedback that they received is that those moments, they go back with them at home as well. So they are asking questions and going deeper into conversations and things like that. So it's one of those experiences that is helping both youth, adult, and children get kind of in a common theme that goes along from Sunday throughout the week until the other Sunday where they come back as well.
Oh, does anybody else have anything to chime in here on this part of the topic?
Actually, Gina, I will just jump in.
Yeah.
So at St. Michael's, we've actually, we have a tradition of sending handmade cards to our shut-ins and elders for all sort of major holidays. And usually we do that together, and they make art together, and the whole parish, or as many people as possible sign the cards, and we send them through the mail. So for Easter, obviously we weren't together, but I invited families to sign up to make a card, and we did that. And I made this huge list for our parish, and I even put little pictures of all the, the elders, the ones that I had, and sent it out for them to continue sending cards and reaching out. And we did have a family that was particularly inspired, and their mother is a Sunday school teacher and highly organized, but they sent a card to every single person on our list. And so I would recommend that. That's a great thing to do with your parish. And, for this reaching out to nursing homes, I think that could be an ongoing project as you encounter youth who, and really it can be children too, because who are looking for a way to be of service and to share something that they're doing. That's something you can invite them to do. And I have, there were 4 nursing homes that I did talk with in person, not in person, but like got them on the phone, and they were eager to receive cards. So I can share that with you if that's something you'd like to share with your parishes.
I also know somebody this week who made like 24 little small pots of flowers and delivered them to a nursing home. And so it might be that families are taking that on and feeling what works for them. I know in our family, we do have a friend in Connecticut whose mother is suffering from severe dementia, is in a nursing home, just tested positive, and is in isolation for 2 weeks. So, that is who we will do that. If we're all about to have, if we haven't already, a personal or parish story of somebody, even if it's that one person, and also putting them on our prayer list around the table. So anyway, again, this is the beginning of a conversation. Andrea, please, if you wouldn't mind to share your email so people know that they can contact you. I'll put mine on there as well. Again, anybody who wants to be on my email, let me know. It's not too much. We don't want to overwhelm, like I said. It's the beginning of a conversation. We're in this for a while. We don't know how long we're going to be in this. There were some great suggestions that came up on Friday as well, with different books to use, and there's just a wealth of information. On this call alone, we have over 100 years of lived experience in this children, youth, and family ministry. But again, it's almost like we're all starting from square one now and trying new things, and we're in this together. So thank you, Victor, for providing this space for us to get together. I thank each and every one of you for coming and being with us, and your interest and willingness to learn more and dig in more. We really appreciate that. And I'm going to pass the baton to Allison Turner to lead us out in prayer on this second Rogation Day of Ascension Week.
Thank you. The Lord be with you. Dear God, we thank you and we bless you. We thank you for this time together, and we bring before you all those children, those youth, all those families who are overwhelmed, who are hurting, and also those who are hopeful. We pray for your discernment in each of our places. We ask for your guidance and your will to be known, that we may be humble and courageous going forward together in your service. We thank you for this blessed day. Amen.
Amen. Thank you to our presenters. Melina had to jump off because she is a homeschooling parent now, as many of you are. And thank you, Wendy, Andrea, Allison, and to Melina. It's just a pleasure and a joy to collaborate with you and learn from all of you.